Excellent. So welcome back, everyone. We have come to our fourth day, the second half of our workshop. So far, we have done Excel, dynamic arrays. We did some dynamic charts as well. But the focus was on dynamic arrays since you are all in finance. And then, of course, VBA, we spent quite a lot of time. We spent a little more than 2 hours on it. And we have managed to cover a little bit of everything. So now you are aware of the interface. You know how to record absolute and relative. You can copy. We don't call it copy and paste, we call it reusing. So we reuse codes from the internet. And then of course, I also taught you how to modify it, right? We ended up by creating a user form, and it was a good example. And the idea is that you can keep on adding more elements to it to make it look more beautiful and add more complexity to it. Right. Any questions so far, anyone? Today we are going to start with a brand new topic, Power Query. But before we do that, if you have any questions. Anyone? All good? All right. So we come back to the day 03. This is actually day 04. And there are two folders that I have shared with you. One is advanced problems. We will do this a little later. And we are going to start with sales data. Okay. As you can see, there are a number of things that have been given in it. And the first thing I will do is to explain to you what the problem statement is. All right. The problem statement is that there are multiple Excel files which have been given by different teams. So 2017 to 19 is a sales record for 3 years. Then I have the sales record for 2020 that has come from a different person. Then the marketing team is giving me a list of all the categories that is being sold. The trade team is telling me, or in consultation with the finance team, what should be the discount that should be offered. And then we also have the ID and name, right? So HR is responsible, right, to essentially tell us what ID and name, whatever team, let's say operations is responsible for the ID and name. So the problem is that if I'm the analyst and working in finance and I have to compile all of this information, how do we do that, right? Because we have some sales data, then we have some trade marketing data, we have our internal finance data, which is discount, and then we also have ID and name, which is coming from the operations team, right? The one who dispatched the product. Now, one question all of you might have is that, Avish, why do we have everything in a different place? Like, is this realistic? Should all the data not be very neatly given to you in one place? That will never happen. Never, ever. And there are many reasons for that. One is that you never have one person working on a file. You have multiple people, you have multiple teams, functional areas. I might create a file, my boss might approve it, add something more. So that creates a different version. And there are silos, right? So finance, legal, HR, everybody works in a silo. So being able to consolidate, that's the term that we are looking at. Being able to consolidate the data from all these different files is super important, right? So especially when you're working in finance, it's not about just creating a model or writing a formula or creating a budget or doing some analysis. The data prep, okay, which is referred to as many other terms. We call it ETL, we call it data wrangling, we call it data prepping, data preparation, right? So there are many terms that we use. There are subtle differences between them, but broadly they all refer to the same thing, which is to prepare the data that you have. Now, is it necessary that the data is all coming in Excel files? Maybe not. Maybe it's coming as Excel, CSV, some system generated files like XML, JSON, maybe something is coming from the internet, right? Things like that. Now, the tool that we are going to work on is called Power Query. And as I said to you earlier, this is a data prep tool. It allows you to not have to write a lot of code. So it is not a coding language, but it allows you to easily connect, extract, transform, and load the data. It's an ETL tool, right? And I'm sure you all have heard of ETL tools, even if you have not worked on it. So if I look at ETL tools, right, the job of an ETL tool will be to take a database. Now, the database can either be something like a database, a proper relational database, let's say on MySQL, Postgres, right? You have XML files, you have Oracle, many other options available. Or in our case, it will 99% be Excel files, right? And the job of ETL is broadly, I'm just thinking why I can't find a good image. Hold on. Okay, yeah, this is better. Right. So if you look at this, there are many tools available, and obviously there are many data sources available, right? So if you look at sources, some of these you might be familiar with, like Hadoop. You have Apache Hive, right? Of course, you know SAP. Then you have MongoDB, which is a smarter way of connecting to data sets, right? And then you have SAP HANA here as well, right? So like this, there are many different data sources that you will have. And the idea of ETL is that you want to take these sources and essentially consolidate all this data. So we say extract, transform, and load. Extract means that we are extracting the data from the database. Transform means that we are doing the necessary transformations, right? Like removing the null values, uh, reducing the number of rows, maybe grouping the data, filtering the data, creating, combining two data sets into a single. All of this is in the transformation stage. And then finally, we have loading. Loading means that if I'm the end user, if I'm the CFO of a company, I don't care about the 10 places from where the data is coming and how much filtering and sorting and formulas you have to do. I just need a clean data with me. And that becomes the last stage called loading. After the loading is done, then the data analyst comes into play. Now, the reason I'm discussing this in so much detail is because it's very interesting. 7, 8, 10 years back, MIS, what we call Management Information System, IT people were responsible for ETL, right? And they used to do this and then give the data, let's say in an Excel file, to the data analyst or to consumers of data. Now, what has happened is that we have access to much more information, much more data at least. There is much more requirement at all levels to give insights. Like HR was not traditionally known to be a team very capable of working with data, but now expectations are very high. Even HR analytics, as I'm sure all of you must know, is emerging so much. Even in finance, it's not just about creating a budget and a model. There is much more analysis that you have to do. Now, it's a double-edged sword because a tool like Power Query has made it so easy for you to do ETL. We don't need the IT team. That means the IT team can go away, and I can, as a non-IT guy, do the ETL myself. I can directly connect to SQL Server, right? And I'll be able to work on that data. But the bad part is that I also need to have that technical know-how, right? A little bit. I need to know what is a server, what is an admin, what is a login detail, what is a primary key, what is a relationship. These are the things that we would be covering today. All right, great. Any questions so far, anyone? Please ask, because when you join organizations, you'll be working on these things. You will not be working on, let's say, Oracle or Talent, but you will definitely be working with teams who will be managing these things for you, right? So there has to be a sense of familiarity with what these tools are. All good? Okay. You can even Google it. You can say, what is the ETL process? And you can see that it tells you the processes that you are looking at different types of data sources. So I have, let's say, a relational database. I have NoSQL, which is a much easier way of working on databases. I have some software as a service platforms like Salesforce. So Salesforce is not a desktop application. It works completely on the cloud. And then you have XML files, right? Excel files are also XML files. Maybe if I get time, I'll explain this to you. So transform means you are changing the way the data works, and then you're loading it. Now, ETL as a process, when I say ETL process on Python, how do you do that? You can see that ETL is something we can do on Excel, obviously. And then in Python, you have some libraries available to you that allow you to do. I'm sure all of you, even if you have not worked on it, have definitely heard of pandas and numpy, which is what we use as a part of the data cleaning. Right? Okay. And same thing when you're doing ETL process in R, right? You have, of course, many packages available. I don't know how many. Can you just tell me what level of knowledge do you guys have about R and Python? Like, was it a part of your course? Have you studied it from somewhere else?
It was a training actually. Most some people took that and some people didn't opt for that.
Okay.
It was an elective.
So not a part of the curriculum, but it was an external training that happened. How detailed was it?
So for some, it is just like a R commander, and if you choose the other one, then it is coding also in the R.
Okay, so no, help me understand. So basically, you just did basic R on R Studio, I assume, correct?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Okay, all right, great. But anyway, all of you should at least have, like I said, a little bit of familiarity. Maybe just do a 1 hour or a 2 hour free course on YouTube, so that you at least know what it looks like, and some terminologies you should be familiar with. At least tomorrow, if somebody says what is the difference between a package and a library? Like in Python, we call them libraries, and in R, we call them packages, right? And all of this is free to download. So don't. A lot of people don't study thinking, but I will not be able to do much. That's a silly excuse. Do as much as possible. Do not worry about how much more there is to do. I'm not an expert at Python or R, but at least you have to start working with it. Right? Okay, enough talk. I think let's start working with Power BI. So this is the website, everybody, powerquery.microsoft.com. And as you can see, it can connect to hundreds of data sources. So you can connect to APIs. That means you can interface with other applications. It has its own SDK, which is a software, excuse me, it has its own software development kit. It has more than 300 transformations, including AI transformations. And as you can see, no coding is required. And where is Power Query available? It is available on Excel, Power BI, Power Automate, SQL Server Analysis Services, and something called CDS. But the most important thing for you is Excel and Power BI, and maybe to an extent, a little bit of SQL and Power Automate going forward. Right? So it's not just something available on Excel. The same set of tools, right, are available on multiple Microsoft platforms. And you have the entire documentation given here. So you can see that, I mean, if you're curious, and you should be going to the website and reading about it, it explains everything in a lot of detail. Right? So if you go to Power Query, it will tell you what is it, and why is it required, what is it that Excel cannot do, what are the existing challenges that Power Query can solve. Things like Excel can't handle large files, Excel cannot save the steps. I know there is a macro, but there is no easy way of doing it without coding. Right? In Excel, data transformation is not easy because you don't have many tools at your disposal. Excel cannot connect to all different types of data sets. So these are the limitations that we have on Excel in terms of existing challenges, and I can do this on Power Query. Now, like I said, if you're working on Excel, then you need to have the data tab. You need to have 2016 or above. But there might be a difference. So if you have 2019, you might get a few new features. If you want all the features, then you need to have Microsoft 365, right? So I don't think there would be anybody who has every single feature. It's not possible, right? Because if you don't have Microsoft 365 with you, but not to worry, because we will be working on Power BI. But please keep in mind, this is a topic which is common to Excel and Power BI. So whatever we are learning today in the next 2 hours, exactly the same thing can be done on Excel, and it can be done on Power BI as well. So don't feel that, oh, but for this operation, I have to go to Power BI. No, whatever I'm teaching you today, you can do the same thing on Excel as well. Okay, let's open Power BI, everyone. Um, all of you have an email ID given by the institute, right? with the institute domain?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Domain. Okay. So when you're signing into Power BI, you cannot sign in with your Gmail, Yahoo, Outlook account. Okay, even Outlook account will not work here. It has to be a corporate domain, right? In your case, obviously the only option you have is the college ID, right? So let me turn on my annotation tool as well. Okay, so when you open it, you notice that on the top right corner there is an option to sign in, right? Like I am also not using my personal account; I'm using my corporate domain here. We don't need to sign in right now. We can do that later. So if you haven't, for some of you, it might have automatically signed in. If not, do not worry. We will cover that later in the next session when we do Power BI. For now, let it be like that, how it is. Okay. Also, can you all just on the chat window on a range of 0 to 10, so 0 being never used and 10 being an expert, can you just tell me how much have you worked on Power BI? I'm assuming that most of you have not, but then I just want to confirm that. Let's see. So I can see a bunch of zeros here. I can see a 1. Thank you, Amit. And great. I think I can safely say that except a few of you who are writing a 1, I'm assuming that you have done it a little bit. All of you are at 0. Excellent. I will tell you what is Power BI, how does it compete with Tableau, how old is it, what is the future of Power BI. So we will discuss those things. But rather than opening slides, I think let's start with the example, right? That's more exciting. The first thing that I want everybody to do, please, is to go to File and Options. Right? Before doing anything else, please go to File and Options, everyone. File and Options. Then you go to Options once again. File, Options, and then Options once again. There are many settings that you have available, but we don't want to fiddle around with it. There is only one thing that we need to change, which is our preview features. Okay. Can somebody confirm, are you able to see all the preview features like I can? Or do you have like a smaller list available? Can you see all of this: shape map, Spanish language, data point, modern visual tooltips? Anyone, can you confirm?
So I can see all of the features that you're
All of them?
presenting.
Excellent. Now, I would like you to select all of them. Do not read it. Do not ask yourself, what is it? I will explain all of it. Just select everything and click on OK. Please select everything and click on OK. Right? Now, if you have selected everything and you press OK, you notice that it asks you to restart Power BI, correct? Please do that. Please close the file and open Power BI once again. That is how the preview features will get activated. Right? So please close the window and reopen Power BI. Right? First thing, please save the file. Press Ctrl S, and I'm going to save it in your folder. So we have work in progress, Krea, and then let me just save it in day 03. And I'm going to call it 11th June. Any name that you want, the name does not matter, but make sure to save the file first. Right? So we will start with a simple example. But before we do that, let me introduce the interface to everyone. You have the options at the top, which is the ribbon. The ribbon is very similar to MS Office. So on Excel, Word, PowerPoint, you have a ribbon, but the options are very different. Okay. Insert home is available on MS Office, but you don't have something called modeling. This is new. View also has very different options in it, right? And in home, you notice that we don't have font color, alignment, the options that you expect. It is very different. You can connect to different data sets. You have CDS, what is now Dataverse, right? Then you have some more visuals, new visual, transform data. Right? On the left side, we have the report view in which we are working right now. Then we have the data view in which we can write calculations. And then finally, we have the modeling view, which allows us to connect multiple data sets together. 90% of your time as a basic user will be spent on reporting. Data and model is only required for advanced users. We will be covering this topic, but I just wanted to tell you that report is where you spend most of your time. Right? At the bottom, you have page, and obviously you can make multiple pages. Then on the right side, we have a list of different charts or visuals that are available in Power BI. And then finally, we have fields, like a pivot table. In a pivot, you have a list of all the columns. Here as well, you have a list of all the columns that will appear. Right? So this is the interface, everyone. We also have a filters pane, which allows you to filter the data. Right? Like this. These are the different elements that we have. It will take you some time to get comfortable with it because it's very new, very different, and it's very easy to learn, but it's very difficult to master. Right? So don't be too hard on yourself if you don't remember everything the first time. The more you practice, the better you will understand it. Okay, now what we want to do is, I want to connect to this folder. Please come to this folder, everyone. 2017, 2019. 2017 and 19. Before we connect Power BI to this folder, let us see what data is there. You don't need to open it. Let me open it for you. As you can see, it's a very simple data, nothing fancy. We have order date, ship date, customer ID, city, state, segment, subcategory, sales quantity, and profit. Okay. And let me just show you the others as well. So we have in 2018, I have the same set of columns, everyone, right? So every workbook has the data for 1 year, right? And there are about a small number of a few hundred rows that are available, okay? And obviously the first thing that I want to do is to combine the data from all these 3 files into a single data set. Because once it becomes a single data set, then I can create visualizations on it. So please come to the bar at the top like this and just copy the entire thing. Whatever you see on your system, please copy the entire thing. Basically the folder path. You want to copy the folder path. I did not happen to ask you if any of you are working on the Mac, but Power BI is not available for the Mac. It's only available for Windows, right? Okay, so I'll copy the folder path. And what do we do with it? We come back to Power BI. And now I want to tell Power BI that, see, I want you to connect to a folder, not just a single file, but a bunch of files, which could be 3 or 2 or 50. So we click on Get Data. Everyone, please click on Get Data. And there is a very large list available. There are more than 80 different connectors. Connectors basically means different types of data sets that Power BI can connect to. Let's see what all we have. We have files, which is Excel, text, CSV, XML, JSON, folder, PDF. This is not required, so you can leave the bucket. SharePoint is basically a Microsoft internal server that you're creating. Almost all large organizations will have SharePoint. Okay. Then you have different databases. So we have SQL Server, SQL Server Analysis Services, what we call SSAS. We have Microsoft Access. Access is a part of Microsoft Office, and that is also a relational database. Then we have Oracle, IBM databases. We have MySQL. You have Postgres. Then you have Teradata. You have SAP. A few options in SAP, and then of course you have some other connectors as well, right? Then we have the Microsoft Power Platform. Power Platform essentially is Power BI and CDS. Okay. Then you have Microsoft Azure, which is cloud, right? So there are three competitors in the market. The largest cloud provider in the world is Amazon, which has AWS, Amazon Web Services, which has the largest market share, I think about 20-30%. Then you have Google, which has GCP, the Google Cloud Platform. And then you have Microsoft Azure, right? All the three are growing because cloud is, I'm sure all of you are aware, is growing every year at a stupendous rate. And all the three players are growing in the market, right? So Google, Amazon, Google, and Microsoft Azure. Then you have other online services, SharePoint. You have a Microsoft CRM called Microsoft Dynamics. Then you have some DevOps, which is for more advanced operations. You have Salesforce, Google Analytics, Adobe Analytics, right? And many other options given to you. You even have integration with Automation Anyway, which is an RPA platform, right? I'm just thinking, what else would you be aware of? Zoho Creator, you can connect to Zoho as well. And then, of course, you have some random miscellaneous connectors. So I can connect to the internet, to a website directly. I can connect to what is called ODC feeds, so object data feeds. I have integration with R and Python. So if you know how to work in R and Python, you can connect Power BI to R and Python as well. So I can write the script, what you write in Jupyter or an RStudio. I can write the same thing in Power BI as well. Okay. And then, of course, you have other integrations. So you have an integration with Bloomberg as well, right? MicroStrategy, right? You have something with SurveyMonkey, right? So every month they keep on adding more and more connectors, and most of what you would expect would be available here, just so that you can see Tableau as well at the same time. I have the paid version of Tableau, and in the free version, you will not be able to see all this. So this is for the paid version. You can see that Tableau also has many different connectors available, very similar to what you have available on Power BI, right? Like this.
So for data visualization, which is better, Tableau or Power BI?
See, you can't just, I mean, one can't just make a general statement. Sure, the focus of Tableau is on data visualization. The flexibility that you have in Tableau is amazing. I mean, Power BI is not even close to it. Even though now, even in Power BI, we have something called Charticulator, which allows you to create your own custom visuals, but absolutely. If the visual is the most important thing, if the aesthetics, the infographic that you're creating is most important, Tableau is the winner hands down. Nothing comes close to it, except maybe working on JavaScript or on Python. But Power BI is not a competitor to Tableau when it comes to data visualization. Power BI's strength is that it's a complete platform. So that's why it's called BI, which is for business intelligence. So it can do data visualization. It can do ETL very well. It can do data modeling very well. It can have AI, ML integration in it very well. Power BI also has integration with RPA using Power Apps and Power Automate. Tableau, on the other hand, also has these things. For example, Tableau launched something called Tableau Prep, I think 2.5 years back. And Tableau Prep essentially is a competitor to Power Query. So if I just show you how it looks, this is how it looks. I mean, I have Tableau Prep, I don't work on it, so I haven't installed it, but as you can see, this is how it works. When you learn Power Query, you will learn the process of connecting different nodes with each other. And this, this style of working on a project, like you can just connect different icons to each other. This is available not just on Tableau, it is also available on a tool called Alteryx. Alteryx is a very expensive tool. It's about 2.5, 3 lakhs per year for one person. And very few organizations are using it. But this is also a very, very powerful tool. And it does a little bit of everything, right? So you notice that Alteryx also has the same flow in the way you connect different nodes. But Alteryx is much more powerful than Tableau Prep. Then you also have an open source tool called Nine. And Nime also, as you can see, it's free of cost. And Nime also has the same visual way of doing ETL. Nime is also a very powerful data science platform. It has more than 2,000 nodes in it, and it can do everything from big data to AI, ML, with, if you require, with no coding. Right? That's the big thing about the platform, that if you are a coder, you can use it, and you can use it at a lot of depth. But if you do not know coding at all, you can just download Nime and in 5 minutes start to work with it. So the learning curve is much smaller and much flatter compared to other tools. Okay, so we want to come to folder, everyone, and click on connect. I'm assuming that all of you have already copied the folder path. If not, please go back and please copy the entire folder path. Make sure that it should end with 2017, 2019. Do not accidentally select something incorrect, because then the entire process will go for a spin. For now, just make sure that you're selecting exactly the folder that I have given you, 2017, 2019. That's it. Click on OK.
Sir, could you please repeat where to put this folder path?
In the box that appears.
Yeah, I missed that step, sir. Like, which option should I click to get that box?
You click on Get Data, and then you select folder, the fifth one.
Okay, sir.
Right. So we click on Connect. I will paste the folder path here, and we click on OK. The first thing that Power BI is going to do is to show me how many files exist in that folder, which could be of any type. So it tells me that, Havish, there are 3 files in that folder. I have 2017, 2018, and 2019. And it gives me some other metadata. So access, modified, created date, what is the extension, what is the exact path, right? Now, what do we want to do? Do I want to load the 3 workbooks independently on Power BI? For which I'll click on load, but I will not do that. Why not? Because I don't want the 3 files to be separate. Because if they are separate, then how will I create one chart which will show me the total sales for the last 3 years, correct? This is why we have to click on combine and transform. Everyone, the reason we are not loading it is because I don't want to load it 3 different times. I want to load it after combining the data from the 3 workbooks. To do that, we click on combine and transform. And once you do that, it will ask you what is the object that you want to select, right? So if you notice here, it is saying, Havish, can you select the object that you want to be extracted? Now my object here is my sheet. And which sheet is it? It is sheet 1. We only have one sheet right now. But if there were many sheets, it would have asked us, which is the sheet that you want, right? So please click on sheet 1. How many files do we have? We have 3 files, remember? So we have 17, 18, and 19. And it is saying, which is the sample file? Now, it doesn't matter, correct? Because all the 3 files are exactly the same. So it doesn't matter if I pick the first one or the second one or the third one. So I will keep it to the default, which is the first file. So don't change anything. Click on the sheet and then select OK. That's all. You don't have to do anything else. And if you have done this correctly, if the folder path was correct and you selected the sheet, a new window will open up. You might have to press Alt Tab because it opens at the back. And this is how the window looks. Just confirm if anybody had any issue reaching this point. Anyone? Just confirm if you have had any trouble reaching this point. Okay. First thing, before I introduce the interface to you, this is Power Query, everyone, by the way, right? Because what are we doing right now? We were extracting the data. Remember, that was the first step, extracting. And we also did transformation because we have transformed and combined the 3 files into a single data set, and then we will load it where? To Power BI. That is why we call it ETL. But why am I saying that it's one data set? How do I know for sure that it is only one data set? Please click on the first column, everyone, source.name, and you will see it tells you 17, 18, 19. If you don't see 18, 19, there should be a load more button here. Just click on that. If you do not see it, there should be a blue colored button called load more, and you can click on that. Is everybody able to see this 17, 18, 19? Guys, just confirm so that I know that it's working.
Yes, sir.
All good? Okay. Now let's look at the interface. At the top, we have a command bar. We have different tabs available. This is very different to Power BI now. It's a part of Power BI, but the options are very different because Power BI is a complete BI tool. This is an ETL tool, Power Query. These are the options that we have. And you notice that all of these options are related to data transformation. Look at this. How do I choose columns? How do I remove column? How do I keep rows? How do I remove rows? Then how can I sort the data? How can I split the column so I can, do a number of character delimiter like you have on Excel? I can group the data. I can change the type of data. Then I can merge. I can append. I can do find and replace. In transform, we have fill, we have replace, we have data type, reverse rows, transpose, pivot column. Then we have options for formatting, which is capitalize, uppercase, lowercase, prefix, suffix. I can also do left, right. So that's why we call it a transformation step, because this is where you want to transform the data. Okay. On the left side, we have some queries. And we only have one query right now, which is called 2017, 2019. But what is all this part? This is some, how should I put it? This is some behind the scenes steps that happen that you don't need to bother with, right? If I go to them, you notice that the first one is a parameter, which makes sense, right? The parameter is asking me which file did we want to select, right? So if I manage the parameter, I can choose the file that we want to select, okay? Then I have the sample file. Basically tells me that I took the first file, remember 2017 as a sample. So I took the content from that file. And the third one is a transform file, which is what we call an invoke function. Here you can choose any file that you want. See, all of this is very advanced stuff, but I'm just showing it to you to tell you that as a beginner, at least for the first 6, 9, 12 months, you should not bother with it. You should just minimize it. You should not be bothered with what all this is, right? Just minimize everything. We just need to focus on 2017, 2019, okay? How did this name come? This name has come from the name of the folder. The folder was called 1790. That's why this is called 2017-19. Please rename this, everybody. Right click and rename, and please call this fact underscore sales. Please do it with me, step by step. Change the name to fact underscore sales. Okay. All right. Then we have the data here. But this is not like an Excel file. So if you try to do Control C, Control V, Control X, that will not work. Okay, I can just view the data, but I can't type on top of it. I can't overwrite it. But if I right click on the column, there are many options that appear. So I have remove, duplicate, examples, remove errors, transform, replace values, group, fill. We will do these things later, but I just want you to know that this is not what you have on Excel. This is very different, right? On the right side, we have some steps. Now this is like a macro. What is the process that we underwent? We selected a folder, we selected the sheet, and then we took the data from the sheet, correct? So these are the steps that have been recorded. I will come to it. And then finally, we have the formula bar. If you cannot see the formula bar, everybody, please go to view and enable the formula bar. If you cannot see it, I don't remember if it is enabled by default or not. If you cannot see it, please go to view and select the formula bar. All good? Excellent. Now, tell me, I just open a notepad. Tell me what are the steps you think would have been performed? What do you think is the first thing that we did? Just in normal English language, what is the first thing we did? See, if you want to be good at Power Query, you have to understand the data flow very well, right? So you have to be able to articulate this process, right? When you're working on more longer, complex projects. So what is the first thing that we did?
You decided the input folder from where the files will come.
So we get the files from folder. Then what?
Then you filtered hidden files.
Say that again.
Then you filtered the hidden files.
No, don't just read what has been written. You tell me logically, what do you think the next thing would have happened?
We
Or the
combine the
location of the
files.
file.
Say it once again.
We just combine the files.
No, hold on. There are many things before that.
What a location of the file.
This is okay. So I will say from a location. Okay, so I gave the location and I took the files from that location. Okay, so far so good. Now tell me, by looking at this folder, can you tell me if there are hidden files in this folder or not? What do you think? In this folder, are there any hidden files?
There can be the.
They can be. It's possible, isn't it?
Yeah.
So the first thing I want to do is I want to filter out all hidden files. Otherwise, what will happen? I will think that I'm only combining the 3 Excels, but without my knowledge, it will also try to combine the hidden files. And we all know that for a number of reasons, there are hidden files in folders, right? So I want to filter out all the hidden files. Okay. But so far what has happened is I just got the file name. I did not get the content. So what do I do now? I want to get the file content, right? But before this, we also want to get the source name. See, if I just combine the data from all the 3 files without telling the user which row came from which file, is that a good thing? Of course not. Let's say I gave you 200, 200, 200 rows, and I come to you and say, see, I have given you 600 rows. Will you not expect me to tell you which row came from which file? Now, in this case, you might say, but Havish, of course, 2016 will come from 16, 17 from 17, and 18 from 18. But there is a possibility, right, that we did not have the year in it. So it is very important for us to know the source name also. Then we will get the file content. And finally, I will change the data type. Okay, which means I have to define which column is a number, which is a date, which is a text. Whereas all of this happened, all of this is happening in Power Query. Let me go back to Power Query. You don't need to do anything. You can just watch me explain to you. What is the first step that happened? We did folder.files. That means we told Power Query, go to a folder and pick up all the files from that folder. Make sense? Now this language equal to folder.files that you see is called the M language. If I go to the documentation, you will see that this is called the M language. And M language has many different functions in it. So it's a little bit like Excel in the sense that you have to write equal to and then you have to put a function, but it is much more powerful than what Excel can do. Also, there are many things in Excel that you can do which you can't do in Power Query, right? For example, in Power Query, there is no concept of a dollar sign because you are never operating on a single cell. You're always operating on an entire column, okay? But this language is called M. Okay, so this makes sense. We went to a folder and we took all the files. If I click on this gear icon, right, I can also change the folder path. Remember, this is where we put the folder path. So let's say I did something and then I feel, you know what, I made a mistake. I can also change it. And I can also change it directly on the formula bar itself. Like you update a formula in Excel. If I wanted to write something else, I could have done that. What is the second step? we want to check, are any of these files hidden or not? In our case, there are no hidden files, but I should definitely check it, right? So I'm saying, how many rows are there? There are 3 rows, right? So this is a table with 3 rows in it. So now I'm saying that in my table, in all the 3 rows, is there any file which is not equal to true? That means the hidden value is not equal to true. That means, is there any, basically I'm trying to say, out of the files that I have, is there anything which is hidden? Because if it is hidden, then it's a problem for me, right? Let me give you an example. I'm going to copy this file, okay? And let me make this hidden. Let me go to properties and make it hidden, okay? We come back and I will now refresh it. I will refresh my preview. Do you see this, everybody? It says 2019 copy. And then here, because I'm not looking at the hidden files, it removes that file, right? So this file which is there, right? It has removed that file. I hope this is clear, everybody. Let me remove it so that there's no confusion that happens. View hidden items, and I will delete this. Okay, all good. Let me also refresh again. First step is 17, 18, 90. Second step is remove all the hidden files. The third step is that I want to, watch this. I want to take the content from the file. See, so far, you might say, Havish, has it not combined it? No, it is just telling you that there are 3 files in that folder. It is saying there is a file called 70, there is a file called 80, there's a file called 90. And every file has, look at the attributes, it has many different things. It has a system, read only. So there are different details available about it. But we don't need anything. We just need one thing, which is the content. So what am I doing? At the end, I'm creating a new column called, that's why I'm calling it table.add column. So I'm creating a new column called transform file. And what is that column going to contain? It is going to contain my entire content. Okay, where is the content coming from? From the 3 files that I already have with me. Okay. Then I will rename it. That means that this name, remember that's the name of the file. I want to call it the source name. So we will rename it and we'll call it the source underscore name. Now think about it. This content, extension, date accessed, attribute, folder path, we don't need anything. We just need the source name and we need the table content, correct? Everything else is needless. That is why I will remove all the other columns. I will say that except the source dot name and the transform file, please, I mean, basically only select these 2 columns, remove all the other columns. So this is great. But the problem is that all of my data has been grouped. That's why you notice this double arrow. It has taken all the data, but it has grouped it. Obviously, I don't want to group the data. I want to expand it. So now I will expand the table column. So I will say table.expand table column, and I am going to expand my transform file. Now it gives you all the columns. But the problem is that the data type is not correct. ABC123, ABC123, ABC123. Can somebody tell me what does ABC123 mean?
Alphanumeric.
No. ABC123 here means it is undefined. Right now, as of this step, Power Query said, fine, you wanted me to expand the table, I have done that. But I haven't decided. Power Query says, I haven't decided whether it is a number or a text. This is not alphanumeric. This means it's a undefined. You can consider it as an alphanumeric as well, but then what about a date? A date should actually not be an alphanumeric. No? So if I want to change the data type manually, I'll have to go one by one to every column and say, this is a date, this is a date time, this is a currency. But very nicely, Power Query is doing that for me automatically. If you notice, it said table.transform column types. It took every column and it changed the type automatically. So if you notice, order date became a date, ship date became a date, customer ID became a number, which is a integer 64, city is a text, profit is a number, quantity is a integer, and so on and so forth. Right? Now, why am I explaining all of this to you? In most trainings in which we only focus on the visualization, we don't even bother. You know, in fact, we tell people, did you combine the folder? Did you get the data? Let's go back to Power BI. If somebody asks us, what is this applied step? We tell them that is automatic. Don't bother with it. Because why would you want to, right? Because all of that is happening perfectly on its own. But see, real life is not that simple. In real life, you will have issues like hidden files. Maybe in that folder, you had files of different extensions, right? Maybe there was a file that you did not want to select. right? Maybe there was one step that you wanted to modify, whatever it is. So if you don't learn all of these things, you will never become an advanced user, right? And that's why it's very important to learn how Power Query works. This is the future, right? VBA will be there, but then Power Query is going to make so many tasks that 5-7 years back we used to do on VBA redundant. I mean, obsolete, not redundant, obsolete. And if I go to advanced editor, I can see a list of all the steps that have been performed like this, right? Now, this is not a programming language, so to say. It's very different. It's not like Excel. It's not like a programming language. It's very different. It's its own thing, okay? Like in programming, we use let. We use let and we use set. But this is actually not a programming language, right? So what is it doing? It is doing one step, okay? Can somebody tell me what does this mean? Hash filtered hidden files one. See,
Step 1.
step 2. What is source? First step. It says that this is the second step, and the second step is connected to the first step. That is why it says that it is connected to the source. The third step says invoke custom function one, which is the previous step, filtered hidden files one. You see what I'm doing now? Rename column is my fourth step, which is my third step. It is the third. So this is a continuation. The second will be connected to the first, the third will be connected to the second, fourth will be connected to the third, like that. That's why you notice source comes to the second, and like this, every step goes one by one into the next step, which is the last step that I performed. It was called change type, and that is what I'm trying to display to the user. You can also change these names. So if you feel this is all very technical and it's all very similar sounding, you can change it. So when it says filtered hidden files, I can just say rename, and I can say remove hidden. Just a minute. So I can say remove hidden, right? And very smartly, everything will work, because the moment you change one step, it changes all the other steps accordingly. So you don't have to worry that, oh, if I change one thing, will it change the other thing? That domino effect will get taken care of automatically. So let me just change it back to what it was. I mean, if you've changed it, that's okay. It doesn't really matter. Yeah, like this. Any questions, anybody so far?
So the advanced editor is showing DAX language, right?
No, this is M. DAX is what we use when we create a model, for when we combine multiple data sets using a model, a relationship. This is M, that is DAX. And M and DAX are also used interchangeably sometimes. So if you search for M versus DAX, you see that there are certain things, operations that you can do, which you can do on M and DAX. Some things M is better at, some things DAX is better at.
Okay.
Good. Ask me more questions, anyone. Now, every single task, action that I perform will get recorded. Remember, yesterday we were recording a macro, so it's a little bit like that, but much simpler. Just watch this, don't do it. If I say, can I sort my data in descending order? So I will go to sales, and I will say, sort. Don't worry about this target column. The actual value was blank in my original data. That's why it's coming as null. Okay. So if I delete, if I select sales and I say sort descending, did you see what happened? We have applied a sort, but the step has also been saved. Table.sort, order descending. Now I'm sure this much all of us have confidence doing. We can come here and change it to order ascending also. Makes sense, right? So now it becomes ascending. So the idea is that, just like yesterday I told you in the case of VBA, record, reuse, and modify as required. Same thing we do in Power Query as well. A lot of it will happen on its own, but wherever you feel I want to make a modification or I want to make a quick change, you can make that change in the formula bar or the advanced editor directly. Okay? Now, unlike VBA, you will not find thousands of codes available on the internet. You will find a few, but not a lot. The reason is that Power Query is quite new. Not a lot of people know about it or are working on it. Maybe in the next 4-5 years that might change. But then VBA has been around for so long, right? And today, Power Query is not the only tool we have. We have so many other options, right? We have TypeScript, we have Python, we have Alteryx. So the user base is not going to be as large as it was for VBA. So in the next 2 to 3 years, do I expect that I can just go online and say Power Query code to do this? Maybe, but not to the extent that VBA will be available on the internet, right? So a lot of this you will have to learn on your own. Basically, that's what I'm trying to tell you, that a lot of this you will have to learn on your own that's what I did when I started learning it in 2018. So FYI, EY started working with Power Query in 2018 March. Even though Power Query has been there for much longer than that. PwC started working with Power Query last year, which is when we started teaching them, right? So before that, they were never working on Power Query. They had the feature, but for whatever reason, they chose not to work on it, right? So the examples that I'm showing you, this is exactly how we explain it to them as well, right? Great. Now, once you have written a step, like I have written this table sort, how do I undo it? You can't do Control Z, but you can just delete the step like this. Obviously, that makes sense, right? So I will delete the step called table sort, and I get my data like this. Great. All right, please click on close and apply, everyone. Close and apply. As we wanted, we did not want the data from the 3 files to come as 3 different data sets. We wanted it to come as one data set. So this fact underscore sales table or data set, we call it a table, is essentially combining the data from all the 3 files into a single file. Right? I hope all of you are getting this on your system. Right? All good? Okay, come back to the folder. I have given you one more file for 2020, which is in a different folder, 2020. Please copy that and paste it in the same folder in 2017, 2019. Everyone, just copy and paste it. Right? So as you would expect, if I go back to Power BI, all I have to do is I have to click on refresh. But before doing that, let me make a card. Everyone, please select this, the card. Right? And please put the sales value in it. You should get 384.45K. But now that we have added a file to that folder, when I click on refresh, you should notice that the number should change. It will become 589.49. Right? Please confirm this. Working, everybody? All right. Now, obviously, if you
can you please repeat the last step again, sir?
Okay, all I did was I selected my 2020 file from the 2020 folder and I pasted it in the same folder. So now I have 4 files in the folder, 17, 18, 19, and 20. That's all. Okay. And then you have to come back and click on refresh. Now this data is not going to show you 17 to 19. It is 17 to 20. And how do you verify that? Just click on transform data, this button, right next to the refresh button. This will open Power Query Editor. And if you look at the filter, it should show you 17, 18, 19, just a moment, and 20. Right? You might have to click on refresh once, but it should show you all the 4. All right. Let's click on close and apply. So basically, if you want to go from Power Query back to Power BI, you click on close and apply. If you want to come from Power BI to Power Query, you have to click on transform data like this. Okay. Now, before we go to more examples in Power Query, which we will be doing, let's take this opportunity of also starting with some visualizations, right? So we'll mix it up. So let's create a few simple visuals, and then we will come back to Power Query, right? All of these concepts are mixed with each other. Please click on this button, Q&A.
Sir, in the previous window, the 2020 is not coming forward.
Can you share your screen?
Right now, sir, I'm working on different PC.
I'm sorry, what did you say?
I'm working on different PC. Actually, what steps did you perform after going to that window?
I didn't do anything. Just a minute. I'm sorry, when I share my screen, I have this trouble. Just give me a moment. That's not good. Just hold on, everyone. My graphics card gives me some issues sometimes. And well, it's still not working. Some problem that is still coming. Wait.
Immediately shift to that, it will take a time. Probably now it will be fine.
Say that again.
You are using an integrated graphics card. Now you shifted, right? So now it will be fine. It takes a minute to
No,
take
but
the
I'm
power
still.
from both.
Yeah, I know. I'm still having some issue because my cursor starts to move a little slowly, and then at least on, maybe you guys can't see it. At least on my screen, I can see a portion of my screen that has some. It's a little pixelated. Okay. Anyway, let me shift to integrated only. Then doesn't matter. I only have this trouble with Zoom, and only sometimes. I think we can live with this for now. Yeah, it should work. Okay. All I did was I put the file in the folder and I clicked on refresh. That's all.
So
Just
then
make
after going to transform data, the 2020 can automatically.
Yeah, it will come. You have to click on refresh here also once
Okay,
if
sir.
required. And then when you click on the arrow, you should be able to see all the four. Just confirm if you're able to see this.
Yes, sir, now it's okay.
Working. All right. Great. Please click on the Q&A button. Everyone, this one, the Q&A button. And this is one of the most fun features in Power BI. It's a little more than a feature. I mean, this is, one of the differentiators that is there in Power BI. So what it uses is natural language processing, which means that I can ask a question about my data. For example, I can say, what is my sales? And it will automatically tell me my sales is 589,000, right? 5.89 lakhs. Please do this with me, everyone. Go to the Q&A button and just type, what is my sales? You can even type just the word sales, but it is always recommended to type a complete sentence, right? So what is my sales? Now, if I say, show me my sales, okay, just watch this carefully. Show me my sales by state. It automatically makes a bar chart for you, showing you the states, the sales for different states in India. And if I say, show me my sales by state as a map, it will create a map for you. How cool is that?
So what if our data includes the international territories also, then it will include that also?
I didn't catch that. Say that again.
If our data includes the international territories also.
No, I'm really sorry. Your voice is very low. I don't know if it's a problem on my end. Can you just speak a little higher, please?
Sorry, if our data includes the international territories
It
also.
will work. It will work. I mean, I've just taken an India example because everybody says, why are we looking at international? Uh, it will work around the world.
So sometimes in Tableau, while doing this map thing, there are null values because it can't track where the location
Yeah.
actually is.
Yeah.
So the same thing will happen in Power BI as well.
Yeah, so the same thing happens, which is that in Tableau, either if you have a misspelling, it will not plot it, and if it is not mapped correctly, so if your locale is India, but you are searching for New York, it will not work. Another possibility is that if you have not given the entire hierarchy, let's say you call it Spain. Now, it is possible that some other country in the world also has a city called Spain. So if you haven't given the hierarchy, if you don't say country, state, city, then it will not know which city it is supposed to go to, right? So the same issue happens here as well. But they're using different APIs here. So we are using Bing on Power BI. Tableau uses Mapbox, right? We have Mapbox available here as well, but yeah, I mean, there are many reasons for it not to work. But if you're given the complete hierarchy, the country name, the state name, and the city name, there is no chance of it not working unless you have a misspelling.
Okay, so means it will display on the right hand side bottom that yes,
It doesn't
these are
actually
the
work
location.
like that. I mean, I think if the spelling is incorrect here, it just doesn't display it. It doesn't show that null. I know what you mean, no? The null comes in the bottom right corner. It
Yes,
doesn't come there.
for example, if CEO is tracking, checking the dashboard, he should know that how many sales location are actually not tracked on this map.
No, Power BI maps are very simple. Let me still give you an example. Don't do this, everyone. I'm just doing it to show to you. I'm taking my 2017 data and I'm writing a state called ABC, which clearly is incorrect. Let's come back and let me refresh it. Okay. Right, so like I said, hey, there is no prompt that comes to you saying that there was a value that it could not map properly. If I just want to show my state, right, you will notice here that I do have an ABC here, but when I make a map, it doesn't give me any prompt that there was a mistake that I had in the data.
Let's suppose I have two cards attached to one another using the filters, and one is having map, another one is having the value of the total sales. Now, if location is not being tracked, like ABC location, so will that also affect the total sales value on the right side card or not?
Why would it? Because if I'm making a card and I'm keeping my sales in it, for example, right?
Right.
Now this sales is the total sales, right? It is not affected by what is there on the left side. But if I go to filter, I can see that it is selecting sales for all. But if I select my state filter here, and here I say that I'm selecting all except ABC, then this number will change slightly.
Okay. Right. I
Right?
see.
Yeah. Right. So everyone, what we demonstrated was that if I have a spelling or whatever, if I have a name which is not being mapped, then it doesn't show it. And I mean, the bad part is that it doesn't give you any prompt telling you that there is a problem. In Tableau, it basically tells you that there is a location that has to be remapped. Okay, let's try to ask different things. So I can also say, who are my top 5 customer name by sales? And let's say in Delhi as a table, right? And like I said, there are many cases where it might not work properly. So like in this case, it did not work. So let me just try for my top 5 customer ID by sales. Now you notice that the moment I do this, it tells me top 5 customer IDs and sales value. But why did that trend line come before? It's very hard to answer that. For whatever reason, I decided to show you a trend line, but you can also force it to show you a table, right? Or maybe I wanted to say a column chart. You can say a column chart, and it will make a column chart for you. But here as well, you notice that there's a bit of a problem, right? Because it thinks that the customer ID is also a number, so it tries to plot that. So it probably doesn't come the way you would have liked to present it, but then that's how it is, right? Now, if you try to ask it in a different way, if I say, what is my sales? Okay. And then I say for top 5 customer ID. Now, do you see by reordering what difference it made? Now it's only telling me not a list. It's just telling me that this is the aggregate. So your top 5 customer IDs are contributing 44,000. Right? And if I say as a column, now the problem is it will only make a single column because I first told it to find the sales, and then I told it only for the top 5. So the top 5 was a filter that was applied, right? But if I do it the other way around, if I say if I say top 5 customer ID, it first brings the customer ID, but it doesn't actually know what parameter I want. Do I want to look at sales, or maybe do I want to look at my profit? So if I say by profit, okay, it makes it like this. Now if I only write profit, it becomes a little different. So it's very difficult, to be honest, to really understand how it works. And I say it is difficult because there is almost next to no documentation available. Like if you go to the Microsoft website, they have just given you very simple things like, top 3, make a chart, make a pie chart like that. But then you can see that the order in which you ask and, how many different keywords you have put, they all make a very big impact in terms of how the results will come. So you can practice it on your own. In my course, I've explained a few things. Like if you ask a simple thing, let's say segment by sales, sales by segment as a pie. That's a very simple question. It tells you this is your segment wise breakup by a pie. Now, if you say I want to look at my sales by segment as a pie, only for, right? Let's say Jaipur. Now it shows me the data only for Jaipur, like this. Any questions so far, anyone? Let me create a trend line. So I'll say show me sales by my order year and by my order quarter by segment. So it is creating 3 trend lines for me at the granularity of my quarter, so years and quarter, and it is making 3 of them. So this is the legend that I have, which are the 3 segments that we have. Okay. Any questions, anyone? See, this is a fun feature, but let's be honest, we very rarely use it. I mean, in my 14, 15 client projects that I've done over the last 2.5 years, I don't think I've used it more than once or twice. And that also just for the sake of it. I mean, this is all very fancy when your data is clean and, in a perfect world, all of these things work. But there are so many factors that come into play, and there are obviously limitations to where NLP is right now. Of course, they are building capabilities. Like you notice that this is all still in preview, so I'll not be covering it. But this is still a preview feature. I can also define my own synonyms. I can teach the system what these terms mean, right? I've covered this in my course, right? So all of that can be done, but the idea is that it's still very new. So maybe in another year or 18 months, it will become a little more powerful. Okay. So I'm going to call this the Q&A. Q&A. Right. Let's make something else. Make a new sheet, everybody, new page. And we will start with a very simple column chart. So I will select my column chart. I will give you time to do it, don't worry. I'm just creating it. And then I'll put arrows so you can see what I've done. Order date is an axis. Sales is in my values. And this is the chart that I've selected. Okay. the second one, which is the column chart. Right? Please start with this, everyone. Right? So far, so good. Nothing tricky. Now, once you made this, the column chart with the order date in axis and the sales in values, you notice there are these 4 arrows that we have. Okay, let's go through them one by one. The fourth one, the last one, is called expand. That means there is a hierarchy that we have. The hierarchy is year, quarter, month, and day. Right? Let me just move it. So this is the hierarchy that we have: the year, quarter, month, and day. So when I click on the expand, what do you think will happen? Obviously, it will show us all the quarters for all the years. So it shows me Q1 for 17, Q2 for 17, like this, till 2020. Right? If you click on it one more time, it will show you all the months. And if you click one final time, it will show you all the individual dates, right? Like this. Now, a lot of people might ask, but why would I want to see a day-wise sale for the last 4 years? Sure, maybe you want to look at the last 15 days or maybe the last 30 days. But why would I want to look at a day-wise sales for the last 4 years? Nobody wants to do that, right? And that is why we want to make a slicer. So please click outside. Everyone, please click outside and make a slicer, this one. We want to slice the data. So rather than looking at the data for 1300 dates, I just want to look at the data for the last 15 dates, for example. So I will make the slicer and keep the order date in it, like this. Now, as you can see, it has created 2 visualizations. I have a column chart and I have a slicer, and these are automatically connected. In Tableau, you have to make a dashboard and connect them manually if you have different visuals, but here it works automatically. I can just move it around, and as you can see, my chart also changes. So let me just come back to the month level. I think that's better. And as you can see, if I choose a different range, it shows me that specific number of months. Please make this.
So could you recap this page quickly?
Recap what?
This page.
The entire page.
This page when you started, like
No, tell me exactly what part. So this is the
say
column.
lost connection between. So
Sure.
different pieces I missed.
So we have made the column chart where the, let me just do it once. Hold on. Where the order date is in axis and the sales is in my values, right? Like this. All right. And the second one is your slicer, which is this one. And we have kept the order date in it. Just one thing.
To add one more to it, while clicking this replaces that.
Yeah, so you have to first click outside and then make a new one.
Okay.
All good?
Yes, sir.
You can also put dates by selecting from a calendar if you wish to. The problem is that it's all white, right? The background is white, and I'm not able to really understand what is the boundary of the visualization. So I think we should really put a border, isn't it? So let's go to format. First, select the column chart, and then go to the format, the second option. So remember, in Office, we would be doing a shape outline, but here you have something called a border. So in the format, I have an option for the border, very simple. I can just select the border and turn it on. And if you want to turn on, you can turn on the shadow as well, like this. Same thing here, border and shadow. Looks much better now. Right? Also click on the up arrow so that we come back to the year. Now we all know what the expand does, right? It shows you the years and then the month and then the date. But we also have this one, the double arrow, which is called the next level. Look at the difference. Expand says that it will show the year and the quarter. Next level says that it will not show you the year, it will only show you the quarter. That means when I click on the double arrow, it only shows me the quarter. Can somebody explain what does this mean? Like, what is 199713 in Q4? What does this number signify? Anyone? See, my sales for 2020 is 2 lakh, 2019 is 1.5. If I click on the next level, it is not showing me the years, it is only showing me the quarters. Just tell me, where do you think this 199 is coming from? 1.99 lakhs.
What
So
total sales for all the 4 quarters, all the
Absolutely.
years.
All the 4 years, right? So it is just aggregating the sales for all the 4 quarters for all the 4 years. That means this is Q4 for all the 4 years, Q3 for all the 4. So if I click on it once again, now what is it doing? It is telling me that if I add up the sales for each month for all the last 4 years, then which month has been the best for me? August, 74,000, right? And if I do it one more time, then it tells me, let's say you are a CPG brand, you are Big Bazaar, a retailer. It tells you that which is the date in the last 48 months when people purchase the most. It is the 11th, which is 32,000, right? Like this. So very different things, but they have its own use case. And finally, we have the drill down. The drill down means that I want to see the quarter by sales like I'm doing right now, but I don't want to do this for all the 4 years. I just want to do it for 1 year at a time. So I will click on 20 and you notice nothing happens. But I want to tell Power BI that no, I want you to tell me what is the sales for Q1, Q2, Q3, Q4 in 2020. How do we do that? We click on the drill down. And now when we click on 20, look what happens. It will take me inside 2020 saying that, fine, Havish, this is your last 4 quarters for 2020. If I go to 2019, it tells me these are the 4 quarters for 2019, like this. Right? And I can keep on drilling down. So if I click on 2020, Q4 and November, what is it showing me right now? It is showing me a drill down analysis, or what we call in financial root cause analysis. So as an RCA, I'm able to see that this is the day by sales for the month of, I also forgot, for the month of December in Q4 in 2020. Okay? So just try all these 4 and get comfortable with them before I continue. Let me know if you have any questions. Right? But it gets even better. Right now, when I take my mouse and I hover it, it only tells me the sales value, correct? Which is 2.05 lakhs. And this is something you can do even in Excel. But what if you want to show the sales value, plus you want to show the profit and the quantity and the number of transactions and the number of unique customers? Now, usually if I have 5 requirements, sales, profit, quantity, transactions, and unique customers, we will have to make 5 different charts. And it becomes very difficult because when I look at 5 of them, they're all different charts, right? I can't really look at the data. I cannot consume the data in one go. Here we have a beautiful option called tooltips, right? Tooltips mean that right now my tooltip is only showing me one value, which is sales, obviously. But I can add additional tooltips. So if I put my profit in the tooltips, what will happen? The chart will still show me sales, but now it shows me sales and profit. But where is the profit? If you take your mouse, now it is showing you the sales and the profit. Very cool. I can put my quantity. It will show me the sales and the profit and the quantity. Okay. Can somebody tell me how do I know how many transactions have happened? Anyone? I want to see if the number of transactions are increasing over time. How do we do that?
Trend line for count of transactions year on year.
What should I put here in tooltips? Out of all these fields that we have, which one should we put?
Shipping rate.
It can be anything. How does it matter? We just have to count it, isn't it?
Customer ID.
Right? But it is, even though we can put anything, see, I can even put my sales, right? And say that I don't want to see the sum of sales. What do we want to see? The count. So it will tell me there have been 556 transactions. It doesn't matter, but it's not considered good practice. Why would you want to put the sales value and ask you to find the count? So usually we put the order ID or the customer ID, right? So I'll put my customer ID, but something very strange will happen. The moment I put my customer ID, you notice that oh, fine, it's working in this case, never mind. So it's already working. So it shows you 556, right? But why is it called customer ID? It's very misleading, right? Like this is the number of transactions, remember? So I can rename it. So I can rename it, right? I click on the small arrow and I rename it and we call it transactions, okay? Now it tells me sales, profit, and the number of transactions and the quantity, right? Let's just finish it, then you can copy. How do we get the number of unique customers? Anyone?
Count distinct.
Absolutely. So customer ID comes in below this, and I can simply change it to the distinct count. And we can say that this is my unique customers, right? And very nicely, it is telling me in last year, we had 178 customers who purchased from us 395 times. This year, we have increased the number of unique customers from 178 to 224, and the number of transactions has shot up by 395 to 556, right? Like this. Okay, please try this out. Add all these values in the tooltip, everyone. Questions, anybody? So far, so good. You will also notice there is it's a decimal, right? So sales and profit has that very irritating 0.99, 0.68. Let's fix that. So just click on sales. And once you do that, you should have the column tools. And in the column tools, you will have to change the number of decimals like this. I will just say that this should have 0 decimal places. Right? Same thing for profit. I will go to column 2, select 0. And if you have done it correctly, then it should give you a nice whole number like this. Right? Okay. By the way, those options do not appear all the time. Only when you select a field, then you get this option for table tools and column tools. Okay. Otherwise, the option does not appear. Great. Now, there might be a use case where you might say, Havish, this is great. I can see the data when I take my mouse. But what if I want to see the data as a table, right? Possible, right? So let me click on the 3 dots here and select show as a table. Click on the 3 dots and select show as a table. And a new interface will open up, and very nicely, now you can see a chart and you can see all the numbers together, right? So it's easier for you to analyze all of it rather than taking your mouse one by one to all the columns. And you also have a vertical layout here like this, which I prefer, which shows you the chart on the left and the table on the right. Right? And the drill down and all will work here as well, right? So if somebody says, no, I want to see the entire report, so to say, for this particular month and this quarter, this is how you can present it to them, where the table and the chart can both be seen at the same time, which is what we always recommend, right? That you should have the numbers if somebody wants to see specific values, and you should also have the chart so that you can see a high level overview of the movement of the data. Like I can see that it started slow, then it peaked in the middle, and then it sort of dropped a little bit at the end. Okay, let's go back to the report. Now, one more thing we can do is something very interesting. Right now, you notice that we only have options for exporting the data as a CSV file. I can remove it, delete it, I can show it as a table, and I can spotlight it. Spotlight means that you can hide everything else on the dashboard and highlight, focus on that one visual that you have right now. That's what is called the spotlight, like this. That's all, nothing special. But if I go to my quarter level, so if I click on the expand button, everybody, the 4th one, something very interesting will happen. Now, Power BI will give me the option of sorting the data. Now, a lot of you must be thinking, but why would we want to sort the data? Like right now, it is showing us from oldest to newest, right? That is how we prepare a trend line. But what if I ask you as a business, in the last 4 years, which have been the 3 worst quarters, right? Because then you want to take some action. You want to understand which quarters were they? Was it Q1, Q2? Which year? Why did it happen? What was the reason behind it? Now, if I ask you right now, can you tell me which are the 3 worst quarters? It's not that easy, right? Like you will say, okay, this is one, this is the second one, and then maybe this one. It will take you time. And this is very simple because now you notice I have an option to sort my data directly on the chart. See, you can't do this on Excel. In Excel, you can only sort a table. And if the table is connected to a chart, the chart will get sorted. But you can't sort a chart directly. Here, if you notice, I can sort by, and whatever you want to sort by, anything I want. Because I have kept all these things in the tooltip. Right now, it is by year and quarter. But if I want to, I can say I want to sort it by the sales value. So very nicely, now it shows me that the 3 worst quarters are 2019 Q1, 2017 Q2, and 2017 Q1. That means that 2 out of my first 3 quarters have been in 2017. In fact, Out of the bottom 5 quarters, 3 of them have been in 2017. Right? And then of course you can change the sort direction. I can make it ascending or descending. I can also sort it by something else. So I can sort it by my profit, for example. Right? I can also sort it by my unique customers. So I want to see that, right? What is it showing me right now? It is showing me that on the left, I have the quarter when I had the least number of unique customers, only 16. And then on the right, I have 91. But that's very strange. Why is it that why is it that the taller column is on the left and the shorter column is on the right? Can somebody explain this to me, please? Q3 19 and Q2 2019. Why is the taller column to the left and the shorter column to the right? Anyone? Think. What are the columns showing me? The height of the column is basis what?
Sales.
Sales. So that means that if this column is taller, then that means that sales for this is higher, correct?
Right.
But then why is this on the left? Because I have sorted the data as per the number of
ID.
customers. This means that, interestingly, in Q3 2019, I only had, let me just click on it once. In 2019 Q3, I only had 55 unique customers and the sales was 53,000. But in Q2, the previous quarter, right, from 55, you notice that we only had, we had more customers, 56, but the sales was lesser at 43,000. So interesting, isn't it? Like from a business perspective, you will wonder, but why did that happen? That means the average transaction size has come into play. That means you can't just rely on the number of unique customers to determine if the business is going to grow or not. There are many other factors that come into play, right? And once again, if I sort it by the profit, again, a very interesting story emerges. Watch this. What does it tell me? It tells me, look at this. This is an outlier. We all know the concept of outliers, right? This is an outlier. Why? Because in Q1 2018, my sales was 30,000, but my profit was very low. It was only 4,800, right? Like if you look at this, my sales was lesser. It was only 25, but my profit was much higher at 53. Like look at this one. Sales is 30, profit is 4. Let's say 5,000, right? So about 16% profit. But in this one, you notice that we have about, a 25% profit, like that. So these are interesting patterns and outliers and data points that emerge when you say that, I want to look at two parameters here. I want to look at sales, which is the height of the bar, but I also want to look at another parameter here, which is the number of transactions or whatever else it is, right? So let me do one more thing. Let me put my average sales value. In my tooltip, I will select my average sales. Okay. And we will sort the data by the average sales. Look what happens now. It's completely haphazard, right? What is it telling you right now? It is telling you that on an average, the per transaction value in Q3, the first column was 265. Okay. In the next one, it was 282, 301, 320. The highest average has been in Q1 2018, which has been 629. That means the difference is huge. I mean, it's more than 2.5x almost, right? 265 and 629, right? So as a business, what would I like to know? I would like to know that why is it that in Q4 2020, my sales was super high, right? 68,000, but the average was much smaller at 349. And here, my average was much higher. So you can try to take away what you did well. See, if your average is going higher, that means that customers are what we call the basket size. That means the basket size is bigger. People are purchasing more from you, but there are fewer customers. Obviously, that's why the sales is slow. So you will ask yourself, can I increase the number of customers by doing marketing or some outreach, doing an email campaign like that? On the other hand, the moment you realize that my number of customers is higher, so here you notice how many customers? 26. How many transactions? 49. 91 customers, 197 transactions. So now you say that I had more transactions, I had more unique customers, but on an average, they were not purchasing more from me. So that's an opportunity, right? It's a lost opportunity, because you say that when customers are coming to you, they are purchasing from you. Why am I not able to sell them more? Like I work with Vedanta, okay? Now Vedanta is the largest aluminum producer, right? Now Vedanta exports a lot. It has a lot of purchases in India. Now Vedanta measures two things. It wants to look at, am I increasing the number of unique customers every year? Are more companies purchasing from us? And also the average size. Now, just because we have more customers, it doesn't mean that it's a good sign. Because if the average transaction size is small, then I don't have that economies of scale, right? I want the ticket size to be higher. So having the ability of comparing these two things side by side is very important. Like, look at this one. It just presents such an interesting story telling you that as per the average size, this quarter has been the best. Like these 5 quarters have been fantastic, right? But there are certain quarters where the sales has been super high, but the average transaction size has been very small. Any questions, anyone? I hope you're able to understand the way. Just imagine we have just done one chart. There are more than 300 charts in Power BI, okay? Like you have these, then you have another 200 that you can download. Let me just show you. It will take 5 seconds to open. Just be a little patient. Okay. So in addition to the inbuilt charts, you have another 200 charts available. On top of that, you can even create your own charts. You have something called Charticulator, which allows you to create your own charts. And you also have Python and R, so you can also make Python charts and R charts. But we have still worked with only one chart. And imagine the level of flexibility and customizability and the depth that you have in a chart, right? I mean, we haven't even gone through the options and seen what else is there. You know, we have conditional formatting, we have some analytics that we can do. So I can make a line on this. I can add calculations on the chart, right? So Power BI or Tableau for that matter, is not really about learning more charts. It's about learning how to extract the most analysis from the charts that you have created, right? Good. Any questions? We will create one more chart after this, but any questions so far? I'm going to change it back to sales. So sort by sales, no, order date. And I want to sort it as per, yeah, this is okay. Anybody, any questions? Right? So it's very important to play with it. Sometimes you do not get the result that you expected. That's okay. But then just do not tell yourself, oh, there are 5 options. I'm sure I can do it in 5 minutes. No, it will take you a lot of time. And because we have never been able to do these things earlier, Excel never made us capable of such detailed analysis, right? You are able to do much more than what you did. Like, who would have thought that, let me compare the average sales with the total sales amount and see if, you know, they are correlated with each other. As you can see, they're not correlated, right? Okay, let's make one more chart. Please click outside. And I'm sorry. Let's make a bar chart. First one, stack bar chart, everyone. Let's keep it here. And very simple. We don't want to make anything fancy. In the bar chart, I want you to keep the segment and the sales amount. And same thing, add a border and a shadow. A segment and the sales amount, everyone. Right? So segment is an axis, sales is in values, right? Okay, now the two charts are connected to each other, just like the slicer is connected to both of them. Do you see this? When I move it, both the charts are changing, which is okay, it's great, but it's something we expected by now. The two charts are also linked. That means that if I look at Q4, what is the total sales? 68,000. Watch this. It's very interesting. If I click on the consumer segment, it highlights Q4, Q3, Q2. That means it is now telling me that out of the total 68,000, how much has come from the consumer segment, from the corporate segment, and from the home office segment, right? So if I take my mouse, now it tells me that the total sales in Q4 2020 is 68,000, out of which the highlighted area, that means the consumer segment, has contributed 40,000, and then you have the other tooltips as well. It will only highlight the sales, not the other tooltips, but that's okay.
So,
Tell me.
so if I format the color for segment by segment, so will that formatting flow to the stack chart as well on the left?
No, no. They're completely independent of each other. If you want to have a color, you will have to put a conditional formatting. And even then, it's going to be very complicated, because to measure which one of the bars you have clicked on, you will have to use a DAX measure for a selected value. So you'll have to check which value did the user click on, because see, this is happening on its own. But if I want to control it, then I'll have to first check which value the user has selected, called selected value. And the selected value will have to be used here as a conditional format in a rule. Right? So I'll just show you what I mean. Even though we'll not be covering all this in this training, but in DAX, we have something called selected value. Let me just show you. So selected value basically tells you that from the chart, there are three options. There are three items that we have, which is the item that the user has clicked on. So that becomes an input for us. And that input can then become a logical test to define which color should come. But in any case, this highlighted color and all, you can't decide. Right? I mean, you can change the color, but then the color from here cannot really flow to this. That will not work.
Okay. Thank you, sir.
Good. Any other question, anyone? So those of you who have worked on Tableau, you know that in Tableau, you make a dashboard, and in a dashboard, if you have made two different charts, you have to connect them to each other, right? But in Power BI, you can see that they are automatically connected to each other. Of course, if you want to break the connection, you can, or if you want to modify the connection, you can. So we have this option called, a second. We have this option called edit interaction that allows us to choose how the two charts will interact with each other. All of this is in the course, so you can have a look at that. Right? But the default one works most of the time. And now you will see how that spotlight is very good. Because now if I want to present and I want the user to focus on one visual, I can just click on spotlight and everything else gets grayed out. And then the user can focus on what you want to present, right? Like this. You can also have a Q&A at the same time. So I can have a Q&A. I'm sorry, my Q&A. And let's keep the Q&A below this. And the Q&A will also be linked, right? So if you notice, here if I say top 5 customer ID, right, by sales as a table, right? You keep it very simple. Top 5 customer IDs. It shows me the top 5, but because everything is linked to each other, let me copy the format as well. Because everything is linked to each other, if I click on consumer, you notice that. Did you see this? They're changing. How cool is that? So you're asking a dynamic question. So the user says, no, I don't want to see the top 5. I want to see who are the bottommost performers, so that we can see why did they not perform well. You can just change it to bottom 3. No need to click on a button, write a formula, apply a sort filter, nothing. You just have the question with you, change it on the fly, and everything is connected to each other. Right? Absolutely fantastic. Like if I want to see in the last 3 quarters, who have been the bottom 3 customers, I can just press shift, select my last 3 quarters, and it tells me 99372, 19404, 600. You might be wondering where is the name, but we don't have the name in this data, remember? Because the names are not present in the financial data. For that, there is a mapping file which the marketing team will have. In the next lecture, we will see how to combine that data, and then we'll be creating a model. See, right now we only have one data set, correct? But we will see how to create a model and how to merge, combine everything together. Great. Any questions, anyone? Anything? All good. Okay. We have 4-5 minutes, so let's just quickly complete this dashboard. We'll do more things in the next session. Make a card, the 1, 2, 3. This is very simple. Make a card, and in the card we will write sales. So we get the sales value here. You can also copy and paste. Unfortunately, you cannot copy and paste to PowerPoint. You will have to take a screenshot. But I can just copy and paste within Power BI. And we can say that the first one is sales, the next one is profit, like this, and very nicely. Now, everything is connected, right? I can select a period. My KPIs change, right? My customer names are changing, segments are changing, and obviously my column chart is also changing. Right. So we're done for the day. We saw what Power Query is. And remember, all of this can be done on Excel as well. Not the visual, but all of this. So if I open an Excel file, all of you can see that. In Excel, I have the same option. I have data, get data, from file, from folder. Ditto, 100% the same. In fact, you would be surprised to know that Power Query did not start with Power BI. Power Query was introduced for Excel, and then when Power BI was launched in 2015, it was introduced in Power BI as well. So Power Query is not a Power BI feature; it's actually an Excel feature, right? It was created for Excel because Microsoft realized that they need to give users the capability of doing ETL, even if you don't know SQL, even if you don't come from an IT background. So that's the gap that they have tried to fill. Okay? There's a very nice book available. If you're interested in reading more about it, it's called M for Data Monkey. Very funny name for a book, but that's what it's called. M is for Data Monkey. Right? Ken Pulse is one of the leading Excel experts in the world. How will you find a PDF? That's on you. You will have to figure it out. But yeah, this is the book. M is for Data Monkey. It is a beautiful book. And I recommend all finance students should read it. I mean, without question. And this book completely focuses on Power Query, nothing else. So if you see a preview, let me just show you the topics that they have covered. Look at this. Everything related to data cleaning, right, and data preparation. So beautiful book. I've read it. In fact, I have been planning to read it once again. But yeah, you should definitely go through it if you're interested. Great. I'm going to save the file, and if you have any questions, you can ask. Anyone? Right. So Power BI can connect to multiple data sets. In this case, we connected to a folder. We used Power Query to combine it, but we did not really have to do much. We just clicked on a few buttons, but then I showed you the advanced editor to explain how it works, right? And if you ever need to tweak it or modify it, now you know what it is, right? The language it uses is M, which is not a programming language. It is very unique in its own way, not like Excel, not like programming. On the left side, I told you that all these advanced steps you can ignore, not needed. This is the only data set, the query that we're working on. And this is an ETL tool that allows you to extract, transform, and load the data. If you add a file to the folder, delete a file from the folder, if you add rows, if you modify the values and the records, everything gets updated the moment you click on refresh. There is no data limit in Power BI. So, I mean, they usually say 2 billion, but there is no hard limit. So you can have as large a data set as you want, and it is super fast. The reason it is super fast is because it uses something called a vertipack, right? Which is what Power BI is using to basically structure and store the data. And if you open the task manager, when you're working on Power BI, you will notice that you also have, do you see this, everybody? When you're working on Power BI, you actually have SQL Server running in the background, right? So because SQL Server and Power BI have a lot of similarity in the way it works, because it's all Microsoft, right? And the way queries are run, they are sort of, they're the same, right? That's why you notice that when you are working on Power BI, SQL Server is also running in the background. Good. Yeah, that's all from my side. I'll of course upload the Power BI file in case you missed out on anything or you want to go back and have a look at it. Remember, you might have to change the folder path. I've already explained how to do that, right? When you're working on your system. Okay, can we also discuss on the next session, everybody?
Yes, sir, sure.
Right. So how we are going to do this is that there will be one more session in which I cover a little more of Power Query, and we obviously work on some more dashboards. And then I'm going to give you a project to work on. And then you take a week or 10 days. I would suggest 10 days, but if you want to resume in a week, we can do that. The final session is going to be a presentation. I mean, you don't have to actually present to me. The idea is I'll give you a financial data set, or I will give you the links and you can download any financial data that you want. By next session, I'll teach you how to work on Power BI. I want you to practice, okay? Come back to me with what you have prepared so that I can give you my feedback and inputs on it. Right? That's the way we are structuring it. So when do you want to have the next session?
Sir, please let us know which dates are available for you. So by then,
Monday or Tuesday. In fact, Tuesday also, I think I have a Sony training. We haven't confirmed. Monday is the day that I have. Or we can do Thursday evening. Yeah, Monday or Thursday.
okay, sir. Then maybe we can confirm it by tomorrow first half. Will that be okay for you, sir?
Yeah, that works. No problem.
Okay, sir. Definitely.
Excellent. Any questions, anybody?
So can we convert the Power BI file to the Excel also? Like we combine the 3 files in the Power BI. So
I'll be uploading the Power BI file as well.
So, what if I want to open that combined file of Power BI in Excel?
Oh, sure. Let me explain that. Just give me a moment. Okay, so once you have combined the data for 4 workbooks in a single data set, and you want to export it back to Excel, what you can do is you can go to the data view, okay, on the left side. Here, you will find that entire data, which has 17, 18, 19, 20. You can simply copy the table from here and press Control V on Excel. You can't export it, but you can copy the table and you can export it. But this has a limit. I think it has a 150,000 row limit. So you can't, if your data is 2 lakh, if you copy the table, only 1.5 lakh rows will get copied, not more than that. Right? Let me just check that. So Power BI data export 150,000. Export limit 30,000 rows when you export to CSV and 150,000 when you export to Excel. Yeah, one of this. It will be either 30,000 or 150,000 that you will have to check. And there's no like way around it. Let me just check once. There's some Python scripts and all that you can do, which allows you to overcome it. There's no easy way of doing it. Yeah, there are some external tools that allow you to do that if the data set is increased. So in Power BI, we have these external tools, which are like even more features that you can add. So all of this is very advanced stuff, right? I mean, like, even I don't work on all of this. So all of this is like, this is for proper IT guys, right? This is not for data analysts and finance professionals. This is for IT folks to work on. So all of this uses, you can use JavaScript here and all. So not, I mean, I will tell you later in the next session what it is. So I'll just introduce these things to you. Obviously, we'll not be covering these things. But remember, Power BI is very vast. Like, it's huge because Power BI will be used by users, consumers, analysts, data scientists, CXOs. It will also be used by IT folks, right? So for IT folks, Power BI is a completely different tool. We are using it to create dashboards and visuals. IT uses it for completely different purposes, right? So just keep that in mind, that whatever I tell you, there'll be much more to it. Okay? Great. All right then, so we can call it a day and have a good weekend. And I will see you on either Monday or Thursday. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.